People-pleasing. Someone asks you for a favor you don't have time for, and before you've even thought about it, you've said yes. A friend picks the restaurant you don't like, and you tell them it's great. You feel a flash of anger at someone, and what comes out of your mouth is an apology. You're easy to be around, agreeable, the good one. But here's what's actually happening. Somewhere very early, you learned that love wasn't just given, it was earned. Maybe approval in your house came with conditions. Be quiet, be helpful, be no trouble, and you'll be wanted. So you became an expert at reading what people needed and delivering it, because being needed felt like the closest thing to being safe. That child was right. Back then, keeping the peace really did keep you cared for. But you're not in that house anymore, and you're still paying a tax nobody's collecting. Your own needs, quietly filed last, every single time. You call it being kind. It started as survival. People-pleasing looks like generosity, but you're not choosing to give. You're still trying to earn a safety that was never supposed to have a price. Inner critic. You make a small mistake and hear it instantly. Idiot. You catch yourself in the mirror and the commentary starts. Too much, not enough. Who do you think you are? You do something well and the voice says, anyone could have done that. It runs all day, this private narrator. And you've heard it so long, you've stopped noticing it's there. You think it's just you, your own thoughts, your own honest read on yourself. But here's what's actually happening. That voice isn't yours. Listen to the words, the tone, the exact phrasing it reaches for when you fail. And somewhere underneath it is a real person's voice from a long time ago. A parent, a teacher, someone whose disapproval you learned to predict so you could brace for it. You absorbed the way they spoke to you so completely that it kept speaking after they were gone. And now you can't hear the seam between them and you. It felt like the truth because it was the first voice you ever had. But a critic you inherited at 6 is not a fact about who you are at 30. The voice in your head sounds like self-awareness, but you never chose those words. You were handed them, and you've been repeating a stranger's verdict ever since. Worth through achievement. You hit the goal you set, and the good feeling lasts about a day before the bar quietly moves and you're chasing the next one. You rest and feel restless, almost guilty, like you're getting away with something. You introduce yourself, and the first thing out of your mouth is what you do. Your worth has a scoreboard, and you keep it running. It looks like drive, healthy, admirable ambition. But here's what's actually happening. As a kid, the attention came when you performed. Good grades got the smile. The trophy got the praise. Being helpful, being impressive, being the one they could brag about. That's when you felt the warmth turn toward you. So you learned the equation early. You are loved for what you produce, not for what you are. And a child who learns that grows into an adult who can never stop producing. Because the moment you stop, the old fear whispers that the love stops too. The achievements are real. The problem is, you're not chasing them. You're chasing a feeling of being enough that keeps moving one step ahead of you. Achievement looks like ambition, but you're not building a life. You're still trying to earn the love that was supposed to come free. Avoiding conflict. Someone's tone shifts slightly on a call, and your stomach drops. A friend says, "We need to talk," and you spend 6 hours bracing for catastrophe over what turns out to be nothing. You feel a disagreement coming, and you cave early. Agree, apologize, smooth it over, just to make the tension stop. You tell yourself you're just not a confrontational person. But here's what's actually happening. To a kid, conflict isn't a conversation, it's a threat. If raised voices in your house meant a door was about to slam, or a silence was coming that could last for days, then your body learned that tension is the moment right before something bad. So you became the one who diffuses it, reads the air, keeps the peace before it breaks. Because back then, staying alert to a shift in the room was how you stayed safe. That wiring never got the memo that you grew up. Now, an adult mildly annoyed at you triggers a 5-alarm response, and you fold before you've even checked whether the fight was worth having. The instinct made sense in that house. It's ruining your ability to be honest in this one. Conflict avoidance looks like being easygoing. But you're not keeping the peace. You're still a kid flinching at a raised voice, agreeing to things you don't mean so the storm never comes. Guilt at rest. You sit down on a Sunday with nothing you have to do, and within 10 minutes there's an itch. You should be doing something. You take a break and narrate it to yourself as earned, because rest without a reason feels like getting away with something. You watch someone else relax easily and feel a flicker of judgment you don't fully understand. You call yourself driven, hardworking. But here's what's actually happening. Somewhere early, stillness got labeled. Doing nothing was lazy. Sitting around was a character flaw waiting to be pointed out. Maybe rest in your house had to be justified, or maybe you only ever saw the adults around you working, exhausted, never once at ease. So you learned that a person at rest is a person doing something wrong. That belief didn't leave when you did. Now your nervous system treats calm as a threat, and the only way to quiet the guilt is to stay busy enough to earn the right to stop, which of course never comes. The drive looks like discipline. Underneath it is a child who learned they were only acceptable in motion. Guilt around rest looks like a strong work ethic, but you're not resting when you stop. You're just serving a sentence, waiting for a permission that was never going to arrive. No sense of self. Someone asks where you want to eat, and your honest first thought is, I don't know, where do you want to go? A partner has a bad day, and your whole mood syncs with theirs, like their weather is your weather. You make a decision alone and feel a low hum of guilt, as if you need permission you can't quite locate. You'd call yourself flexible, low maintenance, easy, but here's what's actually happening. As a kid, you were never allowed to be a separate person. Maybe a parent needed you to feel what they felt, to be happy when they were happy, to never be upset in a way that inconvenienced them. Maybe you became the little therapist who managed their moods, and your job was to stay tuned to them, not to yourself. So the line that's supposed to form between you and everyone else, the one that says, these are my feelings, those are yours, never fully set. Now you merge. You absorb the emotions of whoever you're near and lose track of your own, because you were trained to treat someone else's inner world as your responsibility. It didn't feel like losing yourself. It felt like love. Enmeshment looks like being easygoing, but you don't actually know what you want. You were taught your job was to want what everyone else did. Hyper-independence. You're drowning in it. Too much on your plate, no time, and someone offers to help. You say, no, I've got it, almost before they finish the sentence. You'd rather do it badly yourself than ask and risk owing someone. When you're struggling, you go quiet and disappear rather than reach out. You're the reliable one, the strong one, the person everyone leans on and nobody worries about. But here's what's actually happening. You didn't come to independence by choice. You were taught it. Somewhere early, the people who were supposed to catch you weren't there. Maybe they were absent, maybe overwhelmed. Maybe you asked for something you needed and learned it wasn't coming. So a kid did the only sensible thing, stopped needing. If no one's going to show up, you make sure you never have to depend on anyone showing up. You built a self that requires nothing from anybody, and you called it strength. But it isn't strength, it's a wound with good posture. Needing people is how humans are built, and you've spent years proving you're the exception, which mostly means carrying everything alone and calling the loneliness freedom. Hyper-independence looks like strength, but you're not strong because you don't need anyone. You just learned it was safer to want nothing than to be let down again. Shutting down. Someone asks how you're doing and you say, fine, automatically, truthfully as far as you can tell. Something genuinely bad happens and you handle it, calm and functional, while people say how well you're coping. You try to name what you feel and come up empty, like reaching into a room where the lights are off. You think you're just a level-headed person, not dramatic, steady. But here's what's actually happening. Feelings weren't safe to have. Maybe crying got you punished or mocked. Maybe big emotions in your house belonged to someone else and there was no room left for yours. Maybe no one ever asked what you felt, so you stopped asking yourself. A kid can't leave a home like that, but they can leave their own body, turn the volume down until the feelings stop reaching them. It worked. It got you through. But a feeling you refuse to feel doesn't disappear. It just goes underground and runs things from there. The fatigue with no cause, the numbness, the strange distance between you and your own life. You didn't become calm. You became a person who lost contact with themselves and learned to call it peace. Emotional shutdown looks like being level-headed, but you're not fine. You're a kid who turned the feelings off to survive and never learned they were safe to turn back on.